Are you ready to ditch that San Myshuno city life, roll up your sleeves, and get down and dirty with country living? While the Horse Ranch EP may not be out, it's not too early to start living your farming dreams from the comfort of this rustic barn conversion house. Hi everyone, it's Cindy, and welcome back to the channel. That's right, today we're getting a jump start on those ranch and farm builds I know you're already longing for, starting with this old barn with a newer conservatory addition. Since Chestnut Ridge isn't out yet and I wanted something more lush for the surroundings, we're building in Henford-on-Bagley today on 13 Nettle Lane, which was originally a rental lot. Today's build comes in at a cost of 62,753 simoleons. And if you'd like to add this lot to your game, it is available for download from the gallery, and you can find it using my EAID or hashtag Hyggehaven. That's HYGGEHAVEN. Even if you're not planning on getting the new Horse Ranch EP, there's still a lot of alternative worlds in the game already that you could certainly add farming and ranch builds to. For example, Oasis Springs, Henford-on-Bagley, or Strangerville. Today we are, as I said, building in Henford-on-Bagley, and this is a world that I have been wanting to build in for quite some time. But if I'm completely honest, I have been a little bit scared to build in this world, which seems kind of a weird thing to say because, I mean, it's a game digital world. What is there to be scared of? But I feel like when you go into Henford-on-Bagley, the world itself and all the builds are so beautiful. It's kind of intimidating. And I think especially with the very, English cottage style builds that you see in the original world, they have such a distinct style and features that I have, like I said, been intimidated to try building in that style. But I think one of the great things about barn conversions is that it's not so, I don't know, you can kind of do more with them. There's not such strict rules of what it's supposed to look like, right? Because barns come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. So I feel like there's a lot more flexibility there. So this was kind of like the perfect type of house to kind of dip my toes into the Henford experience. So I hope that you will enjoy it. I also think that this is just such a great opportunity with the channel. This is exactly one of the reasons why I started the channel, was to kind of challenge myself and stretch myself outside of my normal comfort zone. And this was a really good opportunity and example of doing that. And I love how it turned out. So I'm really, really happy with that. And I hope you will also really enjoy this build. I mean, I love a good barn conversion. Let me know as well. Do you love a good barn conversion? There's just something so fantastic about that rustic look, and especially when you pair it with maybe more modern conveniences and modern decor. I think it just turns out so lovely. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So we have the original barn, which you can see I have put together now. I haven't added any windows yet because I'm still kind of deciding where to place everything, but we will certainly add those in. But we've got the basics of the shape and the style and the overall look, and of course those big, beautiful barn doors. Those are the ones that came with the loft kit, and the industrial loft kit. And then I also have those beautiful bifold doors that came with the same kit. So we're using both of the doors from industrial loft. But I am really trying to pair like the original features of the barn with some more contemporary items as well. So you'll see that a lot more when we jump inside, but we're also going to be adding a addition to our barn. So here we've got the basic shape, and I'm going to be adding a newer addition that is going to be a conservatory, and the conservatory is going to be the actual main dining space and kind of like a cozy little area for a few other things as well. So hopefully you really like how I have combined all of those more rustic traditional elements with the newer items as well. But here we're just still on the outside finishing off some landscaping, and you'll see that I've kept a lot of kind of wild grasses around, and there's wild lavender and some old stumps and mushrooms and things like that. And then here around the front door is a few more kind of planted things that I think the people that live in this space would have intentionally planted. We've got these gorgeous hollyhocks and lupins, and I love using these. And of course, we need sunflowers in a farm build. My grandparents on their farm had sunflowers, and they used to grow giant like these ones that I've sized up here. So we absolutely needed to include those as well, of course. I've used a lot of items here on the outside from the cottage living debug menu, especially. So for example, this old farm truck and the fencing that I've used, the old water pump, and that gorgeous wheelbarrow planter that's kind of like broken and spilling out. Those are all debug items, as is this old piece of broken down farm equipment and this giant stump here as well. So, you know, that helps to keep the cost down, but they're also just great, beautiful objects to use, and they just add to the overall look and atmosphere of this build, in my opinion. And then, of course, we need, you know, a sprinkling of little grass tufts and weeds here and there, again, just to add to that feel. And then on this side, I decided I wasn't going to add any additional windows on the ground floor, so I'm just putting in these trellises. These are technically the ones that your Sims can climb up and down from, but they're not going to be using them for that purpose. The window up top is not functional, so yeah, they're just kind of for decoration. And it does my head in that so many of these lots in The Sims, the gallery has the front of the lot set in the shadow. So like the lighting isn't great when you look at it on the gallery pictures, but there's not much we can do about that, unfortunately. But here I'm adding the windows in, and you can see I also added in the chicken coop. There's some gardening potential here for your Sims as well. And this is the conservatory edition that I mentioned. So the original barn, of course, is older, and then this is a edition that the owners would have added on later after the fact when they decided to convert it into a house. So this is going to be our main dining area, and like I said, a few other things in here. And I'm going to use a lot of the Greenhouse Haven kit, which I haven't really played with very much, so that's exciting. The brick tiles that I use out here on this little patio space is from the Greenhouse Haven kit, and I love how it looks because it's got the little tufts of grass in it. And of course, this fire pit is just gorgeous, and it's the perfect addition to have out here. I can just imagine my Sims sitting out here on a nice, you know, evening, having the fire going, and it would just be so perfect and calm and relaxing. But we're moving now into the interior. I end up keeping the exterior walls on the inside the same faded old wood here. As you can see, I'm coloring them in now. And here up top, I open up this level so you can take advantage of the light coming in from the windows on the second story. There isn't anything going to be up there because it's only a 2-tile wide space, so it's not highly functional. So really, it's just to let the light in. And then I also do bring in the masonry, the stone masonry for the flooring throughout the entire build. That's the flooring that I have in the conservatory, but we'll add that in a little bit. But we've started in on the kitchen because I love starting on kitchens first, and we're using a combination of the country kitchen counters, and then I paired them with the Parenthood upper cabinets because I don't know, I really tried to use the country kitchen cabinets, but they just weren't doing it for me. But I think the Parenthood ones work really well, and the wood tones match really, really nicely. And I put this really pretty stained glass window in over the sink, and the blue and green that's used in the stained glass really sets the color palette for the entire interior of this build. So I think that worked out really nicely. I like blue, but I don't tend to lean towards blue naturally. I think I tend to prefer a lot more warmer colors. when I'm decorating, but they worked out really nicely. So here you can see when I'm pulling in like the bread boxes and the kettles and things, I'm using a lot of those blues and greens. And we don't go too cluttered. Obviously, we needed to have a little bit of clutter because that's, something I like to have in my builds, but we are using a lot of the country kitchen kit clutter as well. I like this little bucket of apples or oranges or something like that, and these little jars here in the shelf. A lot of those come with the kit, and the little tins and casserole dish and such. Those are all from those kits or that kit as well. So I think they really tie into the overall look that we're going for here really, really nicely. Now, as far as who's living in this build, because it is just a one bedroom, one bath build, I am envisioning that this is something that like some newly empty nesters have probably invested in and done up for themselves now that the children are off to college or university or out, living their own life. So I think this would be a really cute build for some empty nesters. And here on the side of the kitchen, I've put a little extra counter space with an espresso machine. Now, when I later went in and did some testing, I realized that, oh yeah, the espresso machine doesn't work unless you have the grinder. And I didn't like how it looked having the grinder like all the way over on the little end counter. So I actually swapped the espresso machine out for the tea maker, which works perfectly fine. So your Sims will be able to make tea instead of espresso. But now moving into the conservatory, I initially had started with adding in a large round table and chairs you would have seen earlier, but I ditched that idea. I didn't like how much space it took up. So instead, we've got this smaller table with just 4 chairs to it, and I think it works a lot better. It still looks really kind of, cozy, but a little bit more contemporary feel. And there's still some extra seating available if your Sims would like to have some guest sofa or if the children come and visit. And I use that adorable little fairy planter. That's the first time I've used that object from Growing Together out in the front garden with all the little wildflowers. And I think it just is so perfect in that spot. And then we've got lots of plants in here because it is a conservatory. And then I've added in this cute little hanging chair so your Sims can sit and read and have some cozy time. But now we're into the living room. Now with the living room, we've got this beautiful country fireplace with a nice stonemason wall. And as you'll see here, I am going to audition so many pieces of furniture. Seriously, I knew that I either wanted to use the country or the cottage living or the Growing Together sofa, and I ended up going with the Growing Together sofa because I really like this throw blanket on the back and the pillows. But as you can see here, I am auditioning a whole bunch of coffee tables, and then I also auditioned a whole bunch of armchairs. I knew I wanted to have a rocking chair, but what type of armchair was a little bit of a struggle. I also ended up struggling a little bit with the love seat. You can see here I'm using the Book Nook love seat, but in the end, these modular ones from Dream Home Decorator I thought worked really well, and the darker blue picked up the blue in the throw blanket, and I used the armchair from also Dream Home Decorator, but the other set of modular sofa pieces. And then we've got this coffee table that I imagine is maybe some pieces of old wood from the barn, or maybe they just liked that it kind of had that rustic look like the barn. And then at this point I realized, oh yeah, I wanted to add a cat to this household. So before I forget, again, I'm adding in all the cat furniture here. I do also put in a scratching post. I use like the one that looks like a branch, and I put it outside over by the mailbox. So you have everything that you need for your cat. And this painting, I knew that this was going to be the perfect painting for this build. So that was a very easy decision. But the living room is basically done now. I did do some play testing with it, and it is a bit of a tight fit with the sideboard and the sofa and the coffee table and the fireplace. So before I upload it to the gallery, I will kind of scooch things back a little bit. Otherwise, I discovered that your Sims won't be able to light the fireplace, but they should still be able to sit on the sofa and route around that. But I'll make that addition. And then here, when I was doing the foyer, I realized suddenly, oh, I've completely forgotten to add a TV. So I've added in a TV and a radio, and now we're just adding a few little pieces of clutter here. And because they have a cat, I added this cute little cat statue. Here I've gone with the black one, but I ended up changing it off camera later to one of the ginger, or I think kind of like the tortoiseshell looking one. So it's got a little bit of orange and I think white in it. But here we're just going to finish off the foyer, and as you see, I again auditioned a whole bunch of sideboards, and we ended up going with this really nice hutch. This is the one from Jungle Adventure. And then just moving into the bedroom. So for the bedroom, I knew that I wanted to use the barn door as kind of like a funky headboard or just like an accent piece to the bed. But do make sure that if you do add this lot to your game, make sure to lock the barn door to everyone. Otherwise, of course, you're going to have Sims trying to enter through the barn door in the bedroom, and that's going to look really weird. But for the sideboards and the dresser, I use this really nice Seasons one. And this rug just lifted this entire room the moment I put it in. And oh, I was so happy with how it looked. It was so beautiful. And then we've got the basement treasures mirror. I do end up putting a poof here in front of it. And when I was testing, I realized that the poof does block your Sims from using the mirror. I have tried to kind of move the poof around a little bit. Honestly, there's nowhere that that poof can be that it doesn't block either the bed or the mirror. So I've left it in, but full disclaimer, if you want to use the mirror, you're going to need to delete the poof. Or alternatively, if you want to keep the poof, then just use the mirror in the bathroom. But otherwise, everything works perfectly well. And the wall art that I've put up, I think is really cool because I feel like maybe that is, again, some pieces, some old bits of wood from the original barn that they've put together as this really neat piece of art, wall art deco. So I think that's really cool when people, keep those salvage bits and use them for something else. But now we're into the one and only bathroom. Now the bathroom has modern fixtures, but I've kept a lot of country accents because I think that's quite common when people, do up older houses or do barn conversions. They want those modern conveniences, but still have that country aesthetic. So that's what we've gone for here in the bathroom. It's very long and narrow, as you can see, but it's kind of cute. We've got a little bit of extra storage here with these laundry day wall shelves, and it's a bathroom. I mean, what else is there? But I'm just going to finish adding a few more items to these shelves so that your Sims don't accidentally, put plates on them and drive you nuts, because that certainly does my head in. And then we're going to head back outside and just put a couple of extra items in for the gardening here. But that is everything for today. So if you enjoyed this video, a like is always much appreciated. If you are new, perhaps subscribe so you can return easily, and click that bell to be notified. But thank you so much for watching. I will leave you with the screenshots, and have a lovely day.